ever wondered if everything you've been told about salt is actually true? That something so simple, so essential, could be completely misunderstood. You are not alone, and that is exactly what we're exploring on today's episode of Mama Earth Talk. But before we dig into that, I've got something special for you guys. So many people has reached out about our online course, and we have decided to make it completely free for the foresee future. So you guys can go and grab our online course. It's full of living lighter, and it's just a really awesome course, and I will link that in the show notes as well. You can go on our on our Instagram as well, Mama Earth Talk, so to find it there. And let's start this journey together. Now let's dive in onto today's episode. Hey crazy birds, and welcome to another episode of Mama Earth Talk, where we dive into real conversations about sustainability, share honest stories, and explore practical ways to reduce waste, go green, and live more consciously. I'm your host, Mariska Nell. Our guest today is the founder and the CEO of Oryx Desert Salt, a globally recognized eco-conscious company built around pure, mineral-rich salt sourced from the ancient underground lake beneath the Kalahari Desert. What began as a bold leap of faith selling her house and bottling salt at her dining room table as a single mother has grown into a thriving international brand. Beyond business, Samantha is a passionate health and sustainability advocate, speaker, and mentor, dedicated to helping people reconnect with nature, make conscious choices, and build purpose-driven, regenerative businesses. Crazy birds, without any further ado, I would like to welcome Samantha Skyring. Well, Samantha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mariska.
So lovely having you here. I mean, I don't get to speak to too many South Africans on this podcast, which we definitely need to fix. So I'm South African, for all of the people that did not know, and our lovely guest is currently coming from South Africa. You're in South Africa at the moment. Yeah, so why don't you just start us off, Samantha, and tell us, how did your sustainable journey start? Take us way back.
Okay. So I love looking at life in retrospect. So often there's a crisis that happens, but they're pivotal moments in our life and they change the course of our life. So sorry, Dad, for the stress that you went through when you had a financial crash and wasn't able to give me pocket money or clothing allowance as all my friends were getting. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go get it myself then. So I went off and got 2 jobs at 13. And I loved making my own money and making my own choices. So I can't remember if the first thing I bought was a sewing machine or a down duvet. It was one of the two. And I carried on making some clothes, which I sold with my sewing machine. And then my dad did a pretty crazy thing. He had kind of got himself back together again. I was working as a cold calling consultant on the 13th floor of a high rise in Joburg and wasn't enjoying it and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And a small, not so small business came onto the market for sale right opposite his business at Lanseria Airport. And it was refurbishing of private and corporate jets and 4-seat planes. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously both of my parents believed in me, but my dad was a man of few words, and there was some absolute conviction that he had that I was absolutely capable. And so he bought this business without consulting me, and suddenly I had 30 staff, a secretary. I think they were called secretaries in those days, not PAs.
Yeah.
And a warehouse manager. And it was an amazing time. I was 19 to 21 and I just dived in and just did what I needed to do. And it was an amazing time. And then actually I got married in the middle to my high school sweetheart, and we did a kayaking trip around Lake Malawi, and we discovered an uninhabited island. And it
Ooh.
was like, oh, yay, like barefoot on the beach in our bikinis every day. That sounds like fun. Love you, Dad. Bye. So actually, I had to organize myself a replacement, which fortunately was someone that he had worked with and trusted. And then I went and started a kayaking expedition company to an uninhabited island on Lake Malawi. And that was incredible. Although I did have my experience of a business partnership that went sour, and I lost my island. So yeah, we didn't want to leave the beach and the beach life, and so started a beach bar restaurant, and that was a lot of fun, but not sustainable. And then we ended up in London. And then actually, I wanted to move on with my life. I wanted to grow up, find a nice home, and my partner wasn't ready to grow up yet. So after 13 years, I had to leave him behind and say goodbye. I think it was quite a powerful experience because we had been struggling financially. I mean, we were young and travelers, right? So
Mm.
I think we separated at 28. But the day that he left or he drove out of my life to go to another party, I was a bit over parties by then. I'd been living in festivals and living in my Fleetline van for 2 years.
Wow.
I got a job with a friend. So there are these pivotal moments of like independence that show up.
Wow.
Um,
And that really kind of shaped, everything that you are doing like now as well. And I mean, when you talk about Ireland, I know there's one incident in particular that also took you to what you are doing now. And that was it in the Namib
Oh, the
Desert?
Namib Desert, yes. So I had some time, gathered some friends, and we did a 5-month journey in Namibia. And
Wow.
it's my soul country. It's just beautiful. It's so sparse and few people, and just expansive deserts and skies, and ended up walking 75 miles or 120 kilometers through the Namib Desert. Fortunately, we sort of paralleled the Kunene River, and I had close encounters with this magnificent creature, which is called an Oryx, and it has two straight horns. So it kind of looks like that for anyone who's watching, and
Oh,
that's
wow.
was the seed of the business that came a bit later. And they had these long horns, but they're magnificent and they're majestic. And I was sitting on top of a sand dune, and two bulls ran up the sand dune and skidded to a stop. I was sitting in their pathway, and the Namib Narcliffe Desert is 30,000 square kilometers, and there I
Wow.
was sitting in their path. But that actually only I realized a couple of years ago after having the brand for 15 already. And so 7 years later, when I had the opportunity, and I was introduced to this incredible salt that comes from the Kalahari Desert, from a pristine, untouched, renewable, sustainable underground salt aquifer. And I wanted to choose a logo. This magical masked creature was what came into mind. And
Oh, I love that. Wow. Wow. What a journey. And I mean, kind of, going through all of that and where it kind of brought you to what it is that you've done now. But I mean, some of our listeners might be thinking, yes, they might have one of these experiences in their life, but you've had quite a few of, bold decisions that you've made. But probably people would say one of the boldest decisions that you made was to sell your house, and buy, I can't remember how many tons of salt. Now, I
34.
think 54.
No,
Wow.
30,
Oh,
34 tons.
34.
A full
Th-
truckload.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Like, so for some people that might be like, wow, how, like, I don't understand. But yeah, take us through that. What led you there?
So I had bought, I don't know how much, and then there were heavy rains in the Kalahari, and the agent I was buying from was like, "Oh, you must get some buffer stock." I'm sure he was just trying to get me to buy more salt. And I should actually do an exercise one day where I track these crazy spontaneous moments in my life where there is zero thought or consideration or planning or any business plan. Okay, so I'm going to sell my house and buy 34 tons of salt, and I'm going to stash it into like a garage or a storage room. Um, and I guess there was that sort of intuitive, that deep knowing that this is what I wanted to do with my life. I believed in the salt. And in fact, I had a seed had been planted with my first husband when he was still a boyfriend, when I was like 13 or 14. And he said, if you can find a product that everyone uses every single day of their life, then you're going to be successful. And that stayed with me. And so when I discovered the salt, it was like, right, is that the one? And
Wow.
also, I was driving past a restaurant before I started, and I saw a salt and pepper grinder sitting on, a few restaurant tables outside. And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Here's a product that you get free marketing and brand awareness. Like there are not that many products that sit on a restaurant table, and how many restaurant tables are there in the world? And that was just another defining moment of, I can do this. I'm going to give this a go. And then I just did.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And I mean, like salt. So we use that. You've just said we use salt every single day, but your salt is not salt that you can just go and, buy at any store or anything. There is some magic around it as well, as I would like to say. So, what does, your salt like? Why is it different to normal table salt?
So I think, thank you for that question. I'd like to start off by just saying that not all salt is created equal. And in fact, some salt should not be allowed to be called salt. It is not, in fact, it's disrespectful to call table salt salt. So table salt is actually fake in a way.
Wow.
It was created for industry initially. Salt goes into plastic, paint, into textiles, paper. It's a binding agent. And so, because they were making it in such vast volumes, and of course, they needed it to flow freely, and so added anti-caking and free flow chemicals in it. And then someone thought, oh, well, let's put this in a package and call it salt or table salt. It was also the start of the food convenience era. So see how it pours or see how it runs. Not saying, oh, this might be convenient, but it's not healthy for you because we've stripped it of all the minerals and we've heated it and we've potentially bleached it. And then because the chemicals don't taste really good, we've added some sugar into it too. So, that would be like me giving you balsamic vinegar with your beautiful steak and kind of complaining and going, well, it's made from grapes, you know? So, yeah, so desert salt, and of course we all know sea salt. That is where, we have sourced salt from for the last 10,000 years or more. We don't know how long we've been around for. And what's interesting is that there's salt across the globe, like through the continents, not only from the oceans, but obviously it's so prevalent, and it collects in the rocks and so on. But sadly, the oceans are not what they used to be 50 and
Yeah.
100 years ago. There's a lot we haven't taken care of, and the oceans is one of them. 90 to 95% of salt has been tested with micro or nanoplastics in it.
Wow.
Plus, the cruise liners dump sewage. All of the medication that we take, some of that we pass out, and that ends up in the oceans as well. So that's including contraceptives and antidepressants and all of the other social drugs and all of the statins. And so,
Wow.
from a homeopathic perspective, sea salt, no, thank you, not on
Oh,
my.
wow. Never thought about it like that.
I know,
And
quite.
so your salt, it is not from the sea. It comes from somewhere where people would honestly least expect that, and that is the desert. So we're here in Dubai, where there's loads of desert, but yours actually comes from the Kalahari Desert. And
Yes.
yeah, so why is that actually ideal conditions to form salt? Like I would never have expect that.
Mm. So the Kalahari Desert spans a few countries, so South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana. And it's a huge region. It's 900,000 square kilometers or 9 million hectares. And there's a beautiful, pristine 5,000 hectare, 50 square kilometer salt pan. And underground, they discovered an aquifer with 55 million tons of um, saturated salt brine water. And it's also replenished by underground streams that flow through ancient rock strata of 300 million years old. And so it's constantly replenishing and replacing. And so when we pump it up onto the pan, it hasn't been touched by humans because the closest town is 250 kilometers away.
Wow.
And that's a phenomenon in itself because it is so remote. And because the brine salt water is oversaturated in summer at 45 degrees, 120, 115 degrees Fahrenheit, it crystallizes in 4 weeks in a lunar cycle. And that's also in a way a little bit of a miracle because sea salts need to build up their saturation from around 20% to 100, and it gets birds and it gets other things, and whereas because of the 4 week process it really locks in the minerals,
Mm.
and there's no other there's no pollution in it, so it's sun dried,
Wow.
which is also important because many salts are oven dried, which means that you dehydrate them. But salt's gift and value to the body is that they help the body stay hydrated. So putting in a salt that's now dehydrated, so now the body needs to use its own moisture to dissolve it. That it's counterintuitive, right? So with sun dried, it's still got an element of moisture in it. And there's some really incredible research coming out now, especially from a woman, Veda Austin in New Zealand, where water has memory and intelligence. And Dr. Masaru Emoto actually started this, where he sort of tested glasses of water that he either put a word or he intentioned or spoke out loud, and all the positive words have a beautiful crystalline structure when he froze it and photographed it, whereas all the
Wow.
negative words, jealousy and hate and envy and guilt and shame, which are often words that we speak in our internal dialogue, right?
Yes.
So his message to the world was your thoughts are changing the crystalline structure of your body. So be kind, people, please. Be kind to yourself. You wouldn't most probably talk to your dogs the way we sometimes speak to ourselves. And Veda Austin has taken it to the next level. And I've done an experiment myself where I took a petri dish and I put spring water in it and 1 grain or crystal of Oryx salt, and I froze it. And then I took it out and I put it over a lamp and I took a photograph with my phone, and it genuinely looks like a full moon. And
Oh
that's
wow.
that's the picture that I have of the salt pan. And because I also share so frequently that crystallizes in a lunar cycle, and so I just picture this beautiful vast salt pan, white in under the full moon, and so that imagery like came through in the salt, which is quite incredible.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I mean, there's so many things that salt has benefits of. But
Hmm.
again, like you've said, like salt is not salt. One
Hmm.
salt might be this and your salt might be something totally different. So it's very interesting to see the process of like kind of how, it is made. So you've obviously said the pans and it takes that about 4 weeks. And then do you then kind of, grind it to like a finer product, or what does that kind of look like as well for you?
We do need to crush it for the fine, and the coarse goes, so it's literally raw coarse off the salt pan, and it goes through a sieve. So we get these beautiful, even salt crystals, which
Oh
are
wow.
also really good for the grinder head, because we've been spearheading a grinding mechanism that is ceramic and
Oh
not
wow.
plastic.
Yeah. Wow.
Pretty much all other grinders on shelf, these sort of ones that you pick up on a supermarket shelf, They made from plastic or polycarbonate. So salt is very abrasive. And so when you grind those, they're very cranky. And
Mm.
the salt is actually grinding the teeth away into your food, which you're eating. Whereas our grinders, our tagline is refill, not landfill. And we saved 1,214,900 bottles and heads from landfill last year because our consumers in our restaurants are refilling, which is
Wow.
very exciting that it really is actually having an impact. And of course it's positive for your health because plastic is an endocrine disruptor and it's really prevalent in our world now. So we need to be quite vigilant. What are the
Mm.
source of our products? What is the packaging? We know not to leave your plastic water bottle in the sun. Use a good quality stainless steel water bottle. So we need to be so much more mindful what we're putting in, where it's coming from, the quality of the source.
Definitely. And I think it's amazing what you've just mentioned, like the 1.2 million bottles. That is not little, that is a lot. And was like kind of that kind of, was that really important for you from the get go to have like this like refill system, or was that something that kind of grew as you grew?
So I didn't have it originally, and then some new partners came on board, and we had a mutual friend who actually helped us redesign the logo. And I had been aware of the ceramic mechanism. And because we were doing the logo change, it felt like an incredible moment I wanted it. I have these
Yeah.
moments of like, you're on my wish list, like it could be a person or, yeah, something where there's just this deep conviction. And it's really interesting actually, because with my beautiful island, when I was only, what was that, 23, I guess, at the time, 23, 24. And I didn't then have the conviction to stand up for my island and stand up for my business and stand up for myself. And that moment of conviction has come up in my life many times since, where it's just like, absolutely, I'm doing this, you know? And
Yeah.
and when I discovered, it just made so much sense. I didn't really have to think about it. It was like a ceramic grinder that you buy once and you just keep refilling. And again, I didn't have the whole concept of, oh, that's not a good business plan because then they're not buying as many grinders. It was more the positive impact that it
Mm.
was going to have rather than the business sense that it wasn't a good business sense, you know?
Yeah.
And yet in the
Wow.
long run, I think it is because we really have, we have loyalty from our customers. If they know about it, because it's been a really hard journey, we've had it for 12 years. It's been a really hard journey informing customers that we have this amazing grind ahead.
Yeah, and I think it's also if someone just buys it off the shelf and they don't know, they just think, oh, this is a beautiful bottle. I'm going to buy this one instead of the other one. So it kind of comes with that education as well. But I think once you know, it makes it easier because now you know, okay, I don't have to buy a new grinder every single time. And I'm also not grinding plastic in my food. So I
Thanks
just
a
buy the
lot.
refill. Yeah. So it is like kind of, a win-win situation all around.
True.
And I think, a lot of brands actually miss that opportunity when they also think about, a full life cycle of a product. And what do you feel are some of those brands missing, when you look at what you've done?
I think it's integrity. I think it's like really knowing that I'm not doing harm on the planet, that
Mm,
the footprint is light, that it's saving people money, that it's good for their health. And that I think fuels my passion. Whereas, if brands are taking shortcuts or, putting in ingredients that are not of the best quality that they can find in order for the profit,
mm.
I just, I wouldn't sleep as well as night, at night as well. In fact, actually, I have an example of another product. We have this beautiful little travel shaker.
Oh, nice.
And they're super cute and they're super convenient because they're in your bag. You've got them when you go to a restaurant that's only got sea salt, and you go, thanks, no thanks, I got my own. Um, and they used to be plastic. Um, and I put and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I think we put like 500,000 or something into the
Wow.
world.
Yeah.
And it was really uncomfortable because, like, I know I'm offering you something that is super convenient. And truthfully, I actually prefer the plastic ones because it
Mm.
had a lid that screwed on and then this little plastic tamper seal. But where the little shaker fitted in around the top, it would eventually like get these hairline cracks and eventually it would break. And then it's
Mm.
useless. And then, you're left with this broken bottle. Whereas this, and it was quite lovely, just after I launched them, somebody took them on a beautiful walk that we have in in South Africa called the Otter Trail.
Oh,
And
nice.
you have to wade through a river with your bag on your head, or you've got to swim or something. And she got her little travel shakers wet. Anyways, and it's a 5-day trail. I think maybe the river's on day 2 or 3 or something. And by the time she finished her trail, she still managed to use the salt and get it out, but the packaging just disintegrated. And I was like, yay, it works.
Oh, wow.
And that feels good that
Yeah.
there's not going to be, and even if they do get, thrown around or thrown in the bin, they will actually disintegrate. And
Yeah.
that feels good. And yeah, so I think it's those values that we choose that I think creates longevity in a business, or longevity of passion maybe. And yeah, the mission, it's
Yeah. Wow.
more than just a business.
Exactly. And I think those are the things that kind of matters. But, going back to obviously, your product itself, there's so much into it. And then, you've got the sustainability elements that also kind of carries it even more. But, for people that's still listening to this and feel like, salt. What? Like, it's salt. Honestly, I know I know salt. You've said sea salt. We've mentioned a couple of things. What is some of the biggest myths about salt that you absolutely love to just like bust?
So, I mean, it's a really shocking situation that doctors have told us that salt is bad for us for the last at least 50 years. And if you think about it, like logically, your tears are salty, your sweat is salty, your blood is salty. We are salty. We actually all have around 250 grams of salt. So
Mm.
if you're jogging, you're wearing a black t-shirt. If you went jogging, which you wouldn't find me doing, on a summer's day, or going to the gym, there is often that line of sweat when it
Yeah.
dries. And that's the minerals and electrolytes and trace minerals that are leaching out of your body. So how are you going to replace, if you're losing it to your sweat, it makes sense that you need to replace that.
Yeah.
And you need to replace it with a good quality salt. So yeah, and I think the other fascinating thing, so we've got really beautiful research on our website, and women who are pregnant, their blood volume increases around 40%. So if your blood is increasing, you need more salt, right? And then the body does this incredible thing where women's salt taste buds diminish while they're pregnant because the body is asking for more salt. And women
Wow.
have been told by many doctors that they must reduce their salt intake. The amniotic fluid is salty. Why would you reduce it? And in fact, sodium is the most important mineral for your heart. So doctors that
Wow.
are saying, oh, go on a low sodium diet, which is very unsustainable as a start, is very counterintuitive to the body and what the body's needs are. So there's a brilliant cardiac researcher, Dr. James Di Nicolantonio, and he's written a book called The Salt Fix. Eating more salt will save your life. And he kind of coined a phrase, which I think he nailed it, is the wrong white crystal got the bad rap. So
Oh.
sugar really creates a lot of havoc in our systems. The insulin spikes, the addiction to sugar, but the sugar industry is also a massive industry and didn't want to take the bad rap or take
Mm.
responsibility. And so somehow, because everyone eats salt every day, it was easy to just point fingers at it and have something to blame. We like to blame something. We like to have a
Definitely.
scapegoat. And salt became the scapegoat, which is really quite shocking because we can't live. We literally cannot survive without salt.
Yeah.
So oxygen, what? I don't think I can do more than a minute and a half. I think the record's around 6.5 or 7 minutes. I must actually Google that. Water, we can survive 3 days, 3 weeks, depending on the environment that we're in, right?
Yeah.
Um, Salt, probably 6 months. But if you had zero salt in your diet, you would organs start shutting down. Eventually, in the research, is that you will go into a coma and you will die because
Mhm.
we're electromagnetic beings. I mean, the fact is mentioned, our salt blood is full of salt, and that, that feeds our whole system. The lymphatic fluids, the cells, the intercellular fluid, all requires a salt medium. I'm sure you've had the experience where you've walked through a supermarket and you've been pushing your trolley, and then you touch someone and you get that little electric shock.
Yeah.
So we're bioelectric magnetic beings. Salt is a conductor. We need it for our brains to function. And it was an interesting the other day. My son is a gamer. He's 18, and he was like, "Oh, like, I'm not on my A game. Like, I'm so playing so badly." And I was like, "Have you had some water?" And we always put salt or electrolytes in our water. And the electrolyte brand that I use is called Revive.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's powered by Oryx desert salt. And so he made himself a bottle, chunked back half a liter. And then later on, he said to me, "Wow, that was amazing. Like my brain suddenly switched on." And so that afternoon sort of dip where you'd actually really rather be on the couch than still at your
Mm.
computer, drink some, put a crystal of salt, preferably Oryx desert salt, under your tongue, or put a few grinds into your bottle, and it actually enlivens our
Yeah.
systems.
That's so interesting because even, for me, the last, couple of months I've been through doing marathon training and everything.
Mm,
And then when you really realize how much you sweat, like I was amazed. Like I did a sweat test and it is disgusting to actually say it, but I sweat
gosh,
when I run outside like 1.2 liters of sweat an hour.
seriously, that's a lot. But you are in Dubai, which is pretty
Yeah,
hot.
yeah. And so then that meant that I need to replenish that sodium levels that I'm losing
Absolutely.
every single hour. If I ran so many times where I didn't know that was the case and I would just drink like very low levels sodium like electrolyte with very little water, and I would feel like, oh, I've got so much headaches and I feel so bad. And then the moment I kind of figured out I am doing almost a quarter of what I really need, that's when it kind of flicked and I was like, yeah. So even
That's
something as
quite
silly
painful,
as that.
actually. You
Yeah,
would have been dehydrating your whole system, all of your organs. And if
exactly.
you were just drinking a lot of water, trying to replace, kind of knowing that you'd lost it without the, electrolytes or salt in your water, you'd be
Yeah,
flushing out your kidneys.
yeah.
And then that has a whole another repercussion on the system.
So yeah, definitely worth people checking that out and running in a dark shirt so that you can see how white is that sweat marks. Like those are
Sure.
all telltales.
Definitely. And also I mean, obviously we're all so different. So, this like your RDA of salt is, I don't know what, 2.5 grams. It's probably more like 7.5 or 10 grams actually, that we should be taking in. I mean, and but play around with it. Everyone is, because you'll start feeling, I actually don't think any of us really understand what optimal health feels like,
Mm.
because we have been so indoctrinated by salt's bad for you and various other things. And so have a whole lot more salt. Whatever your body doesn't want or need, it will excrete it through the kidneys. And perhaps and maybe you'll suddenly find yourself filled with energy and, like, and sleeping better. I mean, I met somebody who had suffered from insomnia his whole life, and then he started taking, I think he heard about taking salt. And so he started taking a teaspoon, 5 grams of salt. He mixed it with honey. And within a few days, he had had his first full night's sleep than he had
Wow.
ever had. And I switched a friend onto the same. We managed to get her off sleeping pills and onto salt at night before she went to bed.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, really
Salty Nick.
fascinating. It's like salt techniques, just like salt's your best friend, people, really.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
ditch the salt.
That is amazing. And I mean your company, so like you've mentioned, previously, it is called, Oryx Desert Salt. Like when you first started packaging these like grinders, you actually did it on your own dining table, which I want to know where that dining table was because you sold your house. And what was those like early days like for you, when you had no house, you had 34 tons of salt, and you were packing it on a dining table.
Yeah, so it was a small table. It was terrifying. Yeah. I mean, I left a relationship that was far from healthy. It was abusive. So I ended up leaving a European country with my 3-year-old underneath my arm and like gunning for it. It was a bit of an escape. That will be in
Wow.
my book one day. And so there wasn't, and then I'd sold my house. Well, I actually at that point hadn't sold my house, so I was kind of living very much hand to mouth. And I remember the one day, like it was so stressful. I was struggling to breathe. But then I sent my little son to a little creche. So I had 2 or 3 hours, and I got on the road every day. And I remember going to a few restaurants, and I would give them the taste test because it's actually really interesting. If you grind Oryx onto your hand or onto a plate and you taste it, and then you grind whatever else you have in your kitchen and you taste it, it actually tastes different.
Oh, wow.
So please experiment, everyone. And and I was just getting such incredible feedback from the chefs. And within 6 months, I'd visited one of South Africa's top chefs that had been like awarded #1 for many years, Macho Jansa. And her response was just like, wow, these affirmations that happened along the way. And she converted instantly. She started ordering immediately. And so those gave me the assurance. And I remember actually sitting in my car. I know where I was, and I phoned my bestie, and I was like, okay, I think this is going to work. And there was one day I'd visited a restaurant the day before, and I got a phone call asking for 24 salt and pepper grinders and a refill bucket. And I think it was like 500, and that
Wow.
was so much to me. In that moment, I could put some petrol, could top up my phone, a little bit for food. It was amazing that, yeah, again, it was just these stepping stones along the way. And I've still got the little handwritten invoices of my first 3 orders the places that I sold to. And yeah, all along the way, there were just these breakthrough moments and these moments of gratitude. Like gratitude for me is really I think it's a superpower. If we can cultivate gratitude, um, you know, like not just in the evening when you go to sleep or not
Mm.
just when you wake up, but really just like hundreds, thousands of times a day, if we can, because, at the end of the day, our brain is a muscle. And if we can use our willpower and to direct it and to set the intention and give gratitude attention, and it's the smallest little things. In fact, I had the most incredible moment recently where it was a week ago. I went river rafting down. It's actually really called the Charib River, not the Orange River. And the road from the river to the main road was 50 kilometers. And I stopped many times along the way to take photographs. And then at around 48 kilometers, I nearly really needed the loo. So I jumped up the car, went around a sand hill. And while I was in position doing my side of the road ablutions, they're sitting, sort of wedged into a stick and a rivulet, because there had been a radical storm 6 days before when we went up to
Wow.
the river, and it had actually washed some of the road away. They were sitting a 10 rand note. And I was like, wow, like in in the middle of the desert, basically. I stopped at
Yeah.
a 10 Rand note, and I was just like, thank you. That's such a beautiful gift. I know it's only 10 Rand, and I folded it up into a little triangle and I put it into my car. And last week, I had a tough week. I just went into overwhelm. I was tired. The Orange River was beautiful. The river rafting was amazing, but it was exhausting. Put up your tent
Mm,
5 nights and break it down and pack it up and unpack it, and and then on literally like 5 days later, and I've been working with this because I've been, let's say, I've been pushing Oryx for 15 years now. It's a long time, and
mm.
I work hard and I work long hours and I love it because I'm passionate. But there are times that I don't take care of myself. I'll just like that extra email or that extra something, and going to bed that half an hour later than what I should. And I
Yeah.
always wake up early mornings. So this balance of taking care of oneself. And I've been working with the concept of how does one do business in the feminine? And how do I drop into the feminine? We know the feminine is receptive, it's receiving, it's allowing, it's surrendering. And I've had to work with this concept this year because I haven't felt in my A game. And truthfully, I am in menopause and it is real, that brain fog. So Thursday last week, I reached out to my homeopath. I'm like, I'm in crisis. I need help. So I've gone onto a mushroom complex. I've gone onto some beautiful homeopathy. And already Friday, I started going, I feel myself again. I wasn't
Yeah.
like breathing, like having to. In fact, what I was noticing is my breath was so shallow. I wasn't breathing deeply. And for some listeners who are not aware, if your out breath is longer than your in breath, you're giving a signal to your body that everything's okay. It's like a sigh.
Mm.
And that sigh is this moment of pause. And then on Friday, somebody messaged me and he said, I have a gift for you if you would like it. And I'm like, so what's the gift? I've been gifted a billboard, a massive, huge billboard on the highway between Johannesburg and Pretoria.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
Wow. And that's like one of the main roads like in South
It's
Africa.
major.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Wow,
Absolutely.
congratulations.
Thank you. And it's when you notice the small things and
Mm.
you give it a moment of honor and praise and appreciation and gratitude, I believe that grows. And so, yeah, 10 Rand grew into R1 million in 5
Oh,
days.
wow. 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 I'm definitely going to go outside and start looking for those 10 Rand notes. And I mean, that is just phenomenal. And you have obviously, gone from this situation. And I'm so sorry that you ever had to experience that. Like, no person should ever go through something so terrible. And,
Yes.
how you've used that. Yeah. Yeah. To what it is today. And I mean, like now when people go on your website, they can actually see that you are not just a local South African salt, you are global. And what was that moment when you really realized that, everything's kind of coming into a full circle and you have got something that is going global?
So I think that actually, my first business partner was part of Oryx for a year. And after a year, we weren't profitable and we were needing more capital for PR and social media and the website and things you need, marketing, right? When you're trying to create a brand. And so, and I was still quite vulnerable from it, it had only been a few years. And and I just want to just speak to that point for a moment, because had I been in a safe and stable and happy relationship and marriage, Oryx Desert Salt would not be available globally. Oryx Desert Salt wouldn't have happened.
Wow.
So that was just another crisis. So I don't have any regrets of anything that I've experienced in my life. But with my first business partner not wanting to continue, I had to then like really switch on my networking, and I had to go find another investor who was going to buy them out, because now I have that conviction, right? I'm like,
Mm.
there's no ways I'm putting 3 years of my life and the stress that I've been through and creating this product that people are appreciating and are resonating with. Like, I'm going to keep going. And so those moments of just absolute conviction, like I really they rocket fuel. And so in sort of a 3-6 month period, managed to get funding from our Department of Trade and Industry,
Oh,
and
wow.
I signed up to go to my first international trade show in Germany. And so I went back to my old partner and I was like, he was then my current partner, but hey, I'm going to an international trade show. And I was put onto a catalog of an international distributor from South Africa that had incredible success internationally. And so that again, then he just kept giving me grace because he gave me 3 months originally, and then it was 6 months, and eventually it was 9 months when two partners bought him out. But that was maybe if he hadn't have given me notice, maybe I wouldn't have gone to the show so early,
Mm.
And it was actually at that show that I learned about Whole Foods in America.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so suddenly I'm like, wow, there's this organic supermarket in America. And it became my sort of holy grail. I want to get into Whole Foods. And so then, fast forward 9 years or another 6 years, 9 years after I started, and COVID happened, and we lost 60% of sales because there was no tourism and no food service. And again, I'm like, suddenly our turnover kind of, slipped down the hill 4 years. And I was like, there is no ways I'm losing 9 years of my life and the hard work that I've put in. How am I going
Yeah.
to save my business? And how am I going to take it to the next level? And I was like, I want Whole Foods. And fortunately, the year before, I had networked up a storm. Like I've networking, there's definitely an art to it. I witnessed a friend of mine 20 years ago networking, and she blew my mind. And so she planted that seed of you just arrive and you just talk to anybody, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't do that for a long time. Once you break the ice, now I love going into room with strangers and seeing who I'm going to meet. And I
So your
network
product,
and I
yes.
managed to find the email address for the buyer at Whole Foods at a trade show.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I
And
got
you
into
you
Whole Foods.
you are in Whole Foods now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The last 4.5 years.
Wow. So manifesting that and getting that done, and that's amazing. I'm so proud of all the work that you've done and just
Oh,
like
yeah,
persisting
thank
and
you.
going through. And, when you kind of look back on that journey, what is like one piece of advice that you wish you could have actually given yourself?
So, one piece of advice. I think when one has this passion and conviction, because us entrepreneurs, we choose something for our lives, and then how much of that time do you spend doubting yourself?
Hell of a
So
lot.
that's, hey, so it's really counterintuitive. Like you've backed yourself by choosing the difficult path or the road less traveled. Let's not say it's difficult because I think it's really difficult to take a job and, your salary is capped and they own your time and you have no freedom. So that for me is I'm like, no, thank you. I'd rather put more hours in a day. But just that's those doubt moments. And of course, doubt is also has value. You start looking at things. I think the power of intention, I used it along the way, maybe less intentionally. But I knew that I seem to have, I don't know where that comes from, but I seem to have a bit of a visionary aspect to myself. Before Oryx, I wanted to have an event with 20,000 children all drumming in a stadium together. And then I was like, oh, well, I want to create the next household global brand of salt. I mean, like, I don't know where that comes from, right? Feels
Yeah.
like it's like a gift from somewhere else. It doesn't feel like I'm coming up with those concepts. And just knowing that, like, I just keep showing up and I believe in it and I believe in the salt. And
Mm.
last week, I mean, for a while now, but I've been talking about this beautiful product, the salt from the Kalahari. It has soul. And last week, and I would go to sleep and I'd wake up in the morning and I had have my hand on my heart and my one arm in the air, and I would speak to the soul of the salt. I would speak to the soul of my company,
Yeah.
and I would speak to my soul and to the soul of everything. And I was like, "Hey, soul, this little human here is really struggling. Can you just give me a breakthrough, And can you just let me know that I'm on the right track and I'm tired. I need to just take a pause. I need to step back. I need a break." And I've had like literally in the last week, I mean, just the most. There's some things I can't speak about, but I couldn't even have dreamed of them
Wow.
if I'd wanted to dream of them. They are absolutely incredible. So, and yeah, I'll be sharing the news in around September.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. We're so looking forward to that. And I mean, there's so many things that you guys are been doing. And like, even for our listeners, a lot of consumers always want to feel like they can, better support businesses, like especially like yours and others that are genuinely making an impact. But how would you say can they do that? Like, is there anything that you can give them some advice on?
I mean, firstly, for yourself, like the impact, you are number one in your world, in your universe, and you're the only one that's going to take care of yourself. And we need to be really vigilant. We're very trusting beings. So, oh, it's on a supermarket shelf. It must be okay. No, if you cannot read that ingredient and you cannot pronounce it, don't put it in your body. Like eat simple, eat clean, take care of yourself. And I think I mentioned, and I don't know if I carried on with the thread, was do we know what real optimum health feels like to be at our
Mm,
absolute A game and thriving and vibrant? And the more that we do to support ourselves, to stay in that place, the little morning rituals. My morning ritual at the moment is, a shot of apple cider vinegar with a beautiful flask tea of cinnamon and ginger and cardamom and star anise that I make. And I'm noticing a whole load of things. So my word for this year is consistency, because I've never been good at taking supplements. Like, just don't tell me to take it every single day. Not going to do it. But last year, in December, at the beginning of December, I started taking this. We call it in South Africa muti. And I started feeling better for it. And I've actually dropped a couple of kilos of weight, and I haven't changed my diet much. And I tongue scrape in the morning. And I've suddenly noticed there's less to scrape in the morning,
Oh,
which means
wow.
that it's cleaning out my organs. And yeah, so that's showing up for myself every day, the self-care. And just be mindful of what you're putting into your body
Mm,
and where does it come from. And I've shared with you today that salt has moisture, and they've done experiments where they've tested on thank you, the word gratitude on your food. And that's what prayer is. When we give our prayer, we give our food a blessing, and we give the people around us at the table a blessing.
mm,
So keep blessing yourselves more. Get into the habit of,
yeah.
blessing your life and having thanks for, yeah, even sometimes the hard times, because it's those that grow us. They're not comfortable. But I think,
Exactly.
in this time in the world that I believe, all chosen to be here, and whether we
Yeah.
believe we're chosen to be or not, we're here, right? Things are changing so fast. We need to be kind to ourselves, and yeah, and just having thanks for, thanks for as much as we can, so that we can get through the toughness of it and the
Yeah.
overwhelm of it.
Definitely. And I mean, there is definitely a lot of overwhelm that's going on at the moment. And Samantha, like, what has been one of your most important decisions that you feel you've made around Mama Earth?
I would say cleaning up my diet and cleaning up everything in my life. I've had many little mini breakdowns along the way, crashes, and I ended up doing Sarah Gottfried's hormone reset diet. Maybe I was in perimenopause then. I mean, this must have been, gosh, probably good 9 years ago. And so it's a 21-day process. And the first 3 days, you obviously go off sugar and alcohol, and then it's off meat and off dairy, and until you're literally just doing steamed vegetables with olive oil. And then the last 3 days, you look at everything in your household. What are you putting on your skin? What are you putting on your hair? And I was still coloring my hair with like a box tint, and it was needing another color. And so I thought, I'll give it another color. And this bleach was on my head. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Like, that's going directly into your scalp, into your brain.
Yeah.
Are
Oh,
you
wow.
off? Like, and sorry of those to you, but that was just my experience.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Yeah.
then I was like, I won't ever do that to myself again. And I've recently discovered these incredible products, home household products that are made from like probiotics, creating this beautiful quality, good microbiome in the home. And I get so excited using them. It just feels good. And in fact, actually in
Exactly.
COVID, I remember I went and bought some organic vegetables and then I bought from a supermarket. I always wanted to get into making soups. And I just suddenly found that when they were organic and when they weren't, there was this very subtle difference in how I felt towards them. The organic, I just felt safe. I felt it was
Mm.
okay. With the ones from the supermarkets, there was this feeling of unknown. I don't know. I don't know where you come from. I
Yeah.
don't know what the source is. I don't know how they treated you. And I think that's probably also part of the overwhelm now is there's just so much going on. Even here, we're on
Exactly.
this computer and we're having this beautiful conversation. You're, I don't know, probably 18,000 kilometers or something ridiculous, up at the top of the
Yeah.
continent. And here we're having this, and I wouldn't be able to explain to you how we can see our nuanced, your beautiful smile,
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think there's so much that's going on that we don't know. So if you know and you're making this conscious choice about, I'm going to buy these vegetables and I'm going to buy that, and just slowly really getting in touch with what we're purchasing, where it comes from, and how you feel,
Exactly.
how your body talks to you, and your taste buds talk to you. Your taste buds are
Yeah.
really clever. So listen to
Definitely.
them. So if you're craving more salt, listen to your body. It's talking to you.
Exactly. And Samantha, we are going to move into our final five. So it's the same five questions I ask every single guest. It's like a fire round. So you can just give me short answers for these. You ready?
Okay.
First one is, what is one social media account or publication that you follow?
There's a magazine called Odyssey magazine in South Africa, but I mean, obviously it's now digital and online, and it's just, yeah, it's beautiful. It serves people and the planet.
And what is your hope for Mama Earth going forward?
So, I mean, Mama Earth is so intelligent. In COVID, she regenerated. I believe that we can all wake up and take care of ourselves and take care of Mama Earth, and she will thrive regardless.
And what advice can you give our crazy birds this week to help out Mama Earth?
Don't flush your toilet every time you just go for a wee. Put some bricks into your cistern so you're not using fresh water, as much fresh water. Be mindful of your water.
I thought you were going to say they need to get some salt.
And that too.
And what is one sustainability fact that you like to use in a room with people not yet on a sustainable journey?
Use a grinder that has a ceramic mechanism because you don't have to throw them away. You can just keep them and refilling them.
And that way you don't get plastic in your salt as
Exactly.
well. And Samantha, where can people find you and your salt?
So there's actually a very exciting platform that is busy launching in South Africa. It's called Made in RSA, and they've partnered with DHL. And we can get salt to you in 3 days from South Africa, anywhere in the world. So you can either look for Made in RSA.com, and next week on our website it will have, on the drop down menu for shop, it will have rest of the world, and that will be a link directly to Oryx products on their website. But otherwise in America, Whole Foods, Amazon, and our Shopify site. South Africa, you are spoiled for choice. We're busy rolling out in Checkers in Gauteng, and we're in Checkers, Food Lovers, Woolworths, Pick and Pay, Spars. So anywhere really.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest on our podcast. We really appreciate it so much.
Amazing. I so appreciate being able to, yeah, just create awareness around salt and to introduce this beautiful Oryx desert salt, my beautiful Oryx gazelle.
Oh, I love that. And Samantha, before I hit that stop button, is there anything you felt we've missed out on or anything you still wanted to mention? We've gone through a lot.
Have.
Yeah.
Nothing's popping to mind in this
Okay.
moment. Thank you. So follow us on socials. You're welcome to follow me on LinkedIn. It's my platform where I share my journey, the ups and the downs and the insights of being an entrepreneur, leading the team from the heart and making a difference and talking about salt.
So, what stand out from today's conversation is how something as simple as salt can really connect us to something much bigger, nature's integrity and the systems we choose to support. Samantha's journey reminds us that sustainability isn't just a concept. It is something we design, measure, and live every day. That is it for today's episode of Mama Earth Talk. Thank you so much, Samantha, for being such an amazing guest. I hope Samantha's journey and her work has actually inspired you to look a little closer at everyday choices you make and the impact they carry. If this episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you can share it with someone who needs to hear this message. That is how our podcasts grow and how we get these important conversations out to the world. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please head on over to Podchaser and give us a review or share it with a fellow crazy bird. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a beat of Mama Earth Talk. And I'd also love to hear your thoughts. Reach out, come and say hi on Mama Earth Talk on Instagram. And remember, Mama Earth has a voice and it's us crazy birds.